Hey, everybody, it's Thursday morning. Hope you're in for a fantastic day. It's a beautiful day, and I hope that you're in for a really special one. Guys, just to be mindful, if you don't mind, about some of the people in the church right now who really are going through some incredibly sad and tragic times. Think of those people who have lost loved ones recently, and just incredible situations that ordinarily should never really happening, and there's a lot of tragedy and sadness around. So please, as you go through the day, won't you just lift up a prayer for these good people? They'd really appreciate it, I'm sure. But we're into the book of Numbers today. Now, the book of Numbers is exactly that. It's a book that is based upon the numbers. God told Moses to go and number the people according to their tribes, their clans, and their families. Moses did that. But then after that, it goes into an incredible period of stories about how these people did as they journeyed towards the promised land. Here's an interesting one. I love this story. After just a very short period of time after Mount Sinai, God said to Moses, "It's now time for you to go into the land that I have promised you." Now, we all know that history tells us they took 40 years to do this, and only then under Joshua. But this is just a short period of time that God really wanted them to go in so much sooner. But the people disobeyed. And so God made them, as we often say, take another lap around Mount Sinai until they had been tested and were ready to go into the land. The tragedy was that only two out of that whole generation actually got to go in. The rest of the nation died in disobedience in the land. But here's a story that comes in Numbers chapter 14. Great lesson here. They got to this place. God said to Moses, tell the people to send 12 spies into the land. Check it out, make sure it's what I told you it was. They sent 12 spies in. The 12 spies came back and said, Moses, that land is awesome. It's everything that God said it is. But here's the bad news. The bad news is that there are giants in the land. And Moses said, so what? And they said, we can't move into the into the land because these giants are there. And in comparison to them, we are but just grasshoppers. They'll crush us. And they gave bad news report. But here's the intriguing thing. Joshua and Caleb were two of the spies. And they went in and came back and they said, Moses, it is bad news that there are giants in the land, but we're going to give you a good report. And the good report says we're going to believe the promise of God. God has promised that we can take these giants out. God has promised the land to us. God has promised that we can drive these giants out of the land to possess our inheritance. And they acknowledged the bad news about the giants, but they came to Moses with a good report. I don't know. Have you noticed that there are people like this today? There are lots of people who are into the bad news stuff, and we can't deny it. Just turn on the news. A lot of bad news around. In some of your lives, there's lots of bad news. But there is a uniqueness about a person who acknowledges the bad news, but comes with a good report. And that's the faith report, to say God has promised, God is able, God is enough, and God is going to do this because he has promised us that he will do it. That's the kind of people that get God's attention. We're not denying the bad news. For goodness sake, we'd be stupid to do that. Faith never tells you to deny the bad news. But faith tells us to come with a good report. And the good report is simply that God is with us. God is in us, as we said yesterday. And we can live with the power of God in us to turn bad news into a good report. I really hope that in your own life, that you look at your life today, maybe there's some bad news stuff, but please, people, by faith, hold on to the good report that says that God is going to help you. God is going to use this to achieve his ends. God's going to use whatever you're going through to develop character in you for his glory. This is not an unsympathetic devotion today. I acknowledge the bad news in so many of your lives, but at the same time, never forget the good news that God is able to do something for you in that situation, and that makes for you a good report. People, here in our church, let's be good report people, not not denying the bad news, but let's be good report people today, because that's a great testimony for the kingdom. Let's do it because we believe it. Have a fantastic day. See you tomorrow.